4. Niger made history by becoming the first African country to end military cooperation with the United States. Currently, United States officials are trying to negotiate with the military government of Niger to allow their forces and base remain in the country, but no one knows whether the government of Niger would agree or not. However, it's becoming very obvious to the United States that it has lost influence in the Sahel and is gradually losing influence across Africa. But the United States doesn't want to let go completely and is trying to pull some African leaders to its side. Recently, commandos from the United States military paid a visit to one of the most corrupt, abusive, and repressive regimes in Africa in an effort to strengthen ties with the country. This country is none other than Equatorial Guinea, a country in Central Africa. Now, when we say that the U.S. military paid a visit to Equatorial Guinea, we don't mean that they came for a tour of the country. These officials came to deliver humanitarian aid, financial assistance, from the United States government to the president of Equatorial Guinea, Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, a tyrant now in his 6th decade in power. The aid to Equatorial Guinea is the latest attempt by the U.S.
Because of Donald Trump, millions of women lost the fundamental freedom to control their own
U.S. to woo President Teodoro. Speaking after the donation of humanitarian aid to Equatorial Guinea, Commander Michael White, the defense attaché to the U.S. Embassy in the country, stated, "We hope that this donation is the beginning of additional cooperation." The U.S. ambassador to Equatorial Guinea, David Gilmore, expressed hope that the recent donation of medical supplies would be the first of many opportunities to partner with the government of the country. Ordinarily, this engagement between the United States and Equatorial Guinea is not supposed to be a bad thing because it's normal for countries to seek engagement with each other. However, for a country that supposedly prides itself on pushing for democracy, human rights, and anti-corruption, the fact that the United States is willing to work with a regime that is the complete opposite of what it stands for just because they want to maintain a military foothold in Africa proves to the world how hypocritical the United States is. Before we explore the hypocrisy of the United States, let's take a look at the corrupt and oppressive regime of President Teodoro. For people not familiar with the country, Equatorial Guinea is the 3rd smallest country in Africa, with a population of about 6 million people. And, like most African countries, Equatorial Guinea is blessed with so many resources, including oil. Interestingly, this small country in Central Africa is one of the most prosperous countries in Africa, with a GDP rank of 31st in the world and a Human Development Index of 9th in Africa. But 70% of the country's population lives below the poverty line because the wealth, which is more than enough for less than 2 million people, is concentrated in the government and the country's elite. As with all African countries, the problem lies with their leader, President Teodoro Obiang. After Equatorial Guinea gained its independence from Spain in 1968, Francisco Matias Nguema, who had previously held several positions during the colonial rule, was elected as the first president of the country. He went on to rule for the next 11 years with an iron fist. Under his regime, Equatorial Guinea experienced mass suppression, purges, and killings. Some analysis even revealed that a third of the population was killed or went into exile. Macias's regime is widely regarded as one of the most brutal and oppressive regimes in the world. After Macias ordered the deaths of several members of his family, his nephew, Teodoro Obiang, who was a senior military officer at the time, orchestrated a coup and took him out in a bloody coup. Since then, President Teodoro Obiang has ruled Equatorial Guinea uncontested, making him the 2nd longest ruling leader in the world after Cameroon President Paul Biya. Compared to his uncle's rule, Teodoro's regime was considered more humane at first. But as time went on, it became increasingly brutal and authoritative. Even though it's a democracy and corrupt, there are opposition parties, but it's a well-known fact that President Teodoro holds all the governing power in the country. Every election that has been organized in the country has been manipulated and rigged to ensure the president stays in power. And for all intents and purposes, President Teodoro is a president for life in a country that is supposed to be democratic. Reports on human rights in the country detail accounts of extrajudicial killings, torture, inhuman punishment, arbitrary arrest, and political imprisonment by the state. It also reveals high-level corruption at all levels of government, especially the top. Despite the fact that the wealth of the country is more than enough for the population, President Teodoro and members of his inner circle continue to amass personal fortunes from the revenues associated with monopolies on all domestic commercial ventures, as well as timber and oil exports. In 2003, President Obiang told the citizens of his country that he felt compelled to take full control of the national treasury to prevent civil servants from engaging in corrupt practices. After telling his citizens this ridiculous statement, the president deposited more than $500 million into more than 60 accounts controlled by himself and his family at Riggs Bank in Washington, D.C. The only thing the U.S. did was fine the bank $16 million for allowing him to do so. In 2007, Obiang was suspected of using public funds to finance private mansions and other luxuries for both himself and his family. The U.S. Department of Justice alleged that Obiang and his son, Teodorin, had appropriated hundreds of millions of dollars through corruption to purchase mansions, private planes, and luxury cars in the United States. However, the case was closed after Teodorin forfeited nearly $30 million in assets to the United States. Between 2011 and 2012, many assets were seized from Obiang and his son by the French and American governments, including mansions, wine collections, and supercars. Swiss prosecutors took possession of 11 of the younger Obiang's luxury cars in 2016, seizing Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Bentleys, a Bugatti, and a Rolls-Royce. In 2021, France seized $170 million of Teodorin's assets, including a 101-room mansion near the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. However, these seizures have not affected Teodorin's conspicuous consumption. He continues to spend millions of dollars on a luxurious life while asking the United Nations for aid because he is the vice president of Equatorial Guinea. Yes, you heard that right. President Obiang made his son, who prefers to live a high life of luxury, the vice president of the country. Obviously, he is preparing for his son to take over whenever he feels like stepping down from the presidency. Despite how obvious it is to everybody that the presidency of Teodoro Obiang is corrupt, oppressive, and far from being democratic, the United States has chosen to ignore that and seek partnership with them. Yet it's the same country that sent its top officials to Niger to tell them that the only way it would continue its partnership with Niger is if Niger conducts an election, signifying a shift from military rule to a civilian one, and stopping any alliance with Russia and China, both of which are undemocratic countries. Isn't that hypocritical? But then it shouldn't really be surprising. After all, this is not the first time that the United States has turned its back on its so-called principles of democracy and human rights in favor of its interests. The fact is, it's only when it serves the interests of the United States that it practices democracy and human rights. And right now, the interest of the United States is to counter any influence of China and Russia in Central Africa. It was reported in 2022 that China had plans to establish a military base in Equatorial Guinea. And since then, the United States has been trying to woo the president of Equatorial Guinea so that the only military base that will be in the country will be that of the U.S. Following the February donation worth $24,000 of supplies, including baby formula and first aid kits, the Army released a statement saying that U.S. forces worked with the government of Equatorial Guinea to facilitate this engagement, signifying sustained relations between the two nations. What is surprising, however, is the fact that the U.S. military made a donation of medical supplies as if the country were in the middle of a war, when in truth the country is so rich that its president has a net worth of $600 million. The United States engagement with the presidency of Equatorial Guinea proves yet again that it does not deserve to be called a defender of human rights and democracy. In fact, it can rightly be said that the
But everyone has a different story to tell. Shell, which says it's losing the
Tampa market.
In Northeast Africa, precisely on the Horn of Africa.
All right. Good afternoon, family. Once again, this is Frank. I am your host. Welcome to the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series aspect of WCC every Sunday at 1 p.m. All right, so today's topic, it says Togo Faure want to keep power through unrest. The president of Togo, Gasigbi, or Faure Gasigbi, want to keep power through unrest. And then we're going to look at DRC Congo, all right? And then we're going to look at other topic as well that we're going to end on. But before I proceed, right, the video we just watched, let me start with that video first. You see, let's go to the African leaders, and not just the African leaders. Some of our educated Africans, you know, because some are educated, quote, but they are not in power, but they don't understand how the West play their game. You know, some of the educated Africans, the fools, they are educated, but they are fool. They are, I don't know how they think about their education. They are stupid in their education. They believe that the only thing that will make Africa to proceed, okay, to where Africa need to be is Western democracy, is American democracy. They believe that's the only solution to Africa. They believe that the only place that you can go to seek advice, to seek direction, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to rulership, is America, the imperialist, the colonizer, the enslaver, the oppressor. I mean, think about all those adjectives. Think about all those adjectives. How can you come to a place that have all those horrible adjectives for leadership advice? How? And some of our Africans, brothers and sisters, when you want to educate them that the wrong place to go to seek for democracy is the US, they go against you. When you tell them the wrong place to go to seek advice for democracy is the US, because even the US does not practice democracy. The US does not practice democracy. We keep saying this thing over and over and over and over. A nation that is called an imperialist can never and ever practice democracy. We should know this, folks. A nation that is called a capitalist society can never and will never practice democracy, because democracy, as we want to define it, does not, will not, and is not defined. It's not defined by capitalists. It's not defined by oppressing people. It's not defined by being biased. The United States is biased. A nation that believes in oppressive ideology can never and will never be a democracy. The United States believe in oppressive ideology. A nation that believes, I say it and you agree, and if you don't agree, you become my enemies, can never and will never be a democracy. And the United States have that philosopher that what the United States say, so shall it be. And if it can be, you then become an enemy to the United States. How can such nation practice democracy? Now, if you know the definition of democracy, how can America practice democracy? A nation that believes in democracy, the video you just watched, Equatorial Guinea. If the United States believe in democracy, why will the United States go to Equatorial Guinea? Fine. You can go there. But did the United States go to Equatorial Guinea to talk about democracy? To talk against a president that have ruled that country for decades? But instead of went to partnership with a dictator. How can a nation like US that always preach about democracy go to a nation who is leader is a dictator? And you sign an agreement. You go into alliance with such country, with such leader. How can the United States, who preach about human rights, democracy, freedom, rule of law, and all these crack, go to a nation whose leader is a dictator? Does that mean the United States believe in dictatorship? The United States is not the nation that portrays herself to the world. So to those of you African leaders that don't know how the United States play her game, this go to you. The US is not a democratic nation as you think or you believe. But let's continue. I just wanted to dive onto that. Welcome to WCC. I just wanted to clear my throat, all right? So, why are we here today? Let's look at Togo. We're going to look at three things. We're going to look at Togo. We're going to look at DRC Congo and China. And then lastly, we're going to look at the US, Europe, Africa, and we're going to sum it up as we usually do. Let's continue here. Let's go to Togo. Now, as we all know, or we might know, Togo, a nation in West Africa, a nation whose head leader have been controlling that nation for years upon years. So the current president succeeded the father. The current president succeeded the father. And when he was born, he was at the age of 6 months when the father took place. The current president, imagine. He was born, and at the age of 6 months, his father took office. Imagine. 6 months, the father took office. And he grew up and saw the father in office, and the father died in office, and the father put him in office. So that means the fathers reared him to become the next president, to succeed him. And when the father died, he succeeded the father, the current president, Faure. So let's get into it, right? So recently, as we all know, we saw what happened in Senegal. So similar thing is about to happen in DRC Congo. Now, again, why is the United States, quote unquote, the so-called democratic nation, not talking about the situation in Togo? Why is the United States, in quote, the fake democratic nation, is not talking about the crisis in Togo? Why are they not telling the Togolese president to do free and fair election? Because they know. In fact, why is the United States not supporting the opposition? Because now let's go to the so-called Liberian. The so-called Liberian. Sorry, this is a revolutionary repatriation educational lecture series. We don't care what we say here, and we are unapologetic. Now, let's go to the so-called Liberia. All right? Now, what you don't know or what you don't understand is, if the United States hates your president, that means your president is proceeding the right way. They do not hate your president because your president violates your right or violates the constitution of that country. Why did the U.S. go to Equatorial Guinea when the citizens' rights are being violated by that president? And in fact, the president is raising his son to succeed him when he's dead. But yet that the United States went there, make business with him. But you sat down in Liberia, and the United States supported the opposition against the government. And you listened to the United States. And they removed a government that was for you. So understand this. Why? Now, Liberia, where you understand this, right? Unless you support Faure to stay in power, then you won't understand. But this is a family that been in power since 1967. All right? Since 1967, this family been in power in Togo since 1967 to 2024. Imagine, do the calculation. 1967 to 2024, there's one family been in power. Now, in 2024, this family, Faure, want to change. They want to change the constitution so that the citizens in Togo will not vote. But election will be based on parliamentary election. That means few people will appoint or vote on the president. So what does that mean? More corruption. Why is the U.S. not talking against it? In quote. Now, I'm not saying that because I wanted to talk, but again, it's the same U.S. that will go around the African continent to preach about democracy. When you see the U.S. in your country preaching about democracy, think twice. It's not because of your interest. They are there for their own interest. But what they will do here is they will put their interest aside and use the circumstances, the situation of the people. And you would think the U.S. is in your country speaking on your behalf. Let's continue here. But today, the U.S. is the one making business and deal with Togo. And don't even care about the Togolese, the citizen in our place. In fact, the Togolese have been to the White House numerous times asking the United States in their support to remove Faure. But rather, after they did that, the next day, the United States sent a diplomat and they went and met the Togolese president for a diplomatic meeting to coordinate business between the U.S. and Togo, disregarding the people. But Liberia is one of the countries in West Africa believe in the U.S. Not knowing the U.S. have been the problem to Liberia. But like I said, in the coming days, we're going to be on Liberia. Don't worry. In the coming days. But let's continue here. Now, since the introduction of a parliamentary election that they wanted to amend the constitution, and this is the second time under this man in the first place. I think they did it in 2002, where they changed the constitution, all right, because he needed to go for 2 terms. And after the 2 terms, he wanted to stay there, and then he went and brought people. They changed the constitution to no limit. That means you cannot go for 1 term, or let's say first and second term, and then you're done. It's finished. So after he did his first and second term, he was to go. But he went and changed it, and then it have no limit. You can serve as any time, as much as you want. A nation that believes in democracy did not speak against it, right? But let's see here. So now, opposition are saying, do not touch our constitution. We have to go by the process where the people will go and elect. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. So it says, do not touch. Don't touch my constitution. Togolese resist reform ahead of election. This is Faure right here. This is the man that was born in 1967 when he was 6 months old. This man. 1967 he was born. When he was 6 months old, that's the time his father took office in Togo. And the father led the country till the father died in office. And then this man, his son, who was born 1967, and he was 6 months old when he became president, his son, Faure right here, took over. So let's see here what opposition say. Tension arising in Togo over major constitutional reform ahead of delayed parliamentary elections. The constitutional rebuild was approved by lawmakers last month, but resubmitted for consultation as public anchor over it, such as passes through parliament, mounted with police breaking up and oppositions, news conference, and cracking down on protests. All right. The reform we see Togo move from a presidential to a parliamentary system, essentially ushering in the country's 5th republic. But opposition activists believe it is all rush designed to keep long-standing President Faure Gnassingbe in power. This is with a new job title, preserving a dynastic system stretching back nearly 6 decades. 6 decades. This family have been ruling that country. What do they want? After 6 decades, what do they want? They are rich. And these people, folks, by the way, they are billionaires already. But they will not come out to declare their assets, right? Because that's where they got their money from. So these were already billionaires. What do they want? Give the Togolese chance and just go and enjoy your money. But again, these people are slaves who are there to serve and oppress. They are people in the interest of Washington, D.C. and Europe, the colonizer. Let's continue here. And the turmoil got simply postponed parliamentary election after protesters, okay, after the Togolese came out, right? Now, he postponed the election last week, a move that only served to stir up the unrest. Then, on Tuesday, the government announced that it will go ahead with the election. After all, rescheduling them for April 29, just over a week later than the original date. Because the original date is actually April 20. Now, at the same time, the government warned opposition. The government, Faure, he warned opposition group to scrap plans for 3 days protest this week. Because opposition, now, if I will explain that, let me just read. All right. This week declaring the rally illegal. Declaring the rally illegal. Okay, the coming together of the people, he declared illegal. I'm going to dive into that, even though they did not explain what I'm about to say. But that is why we look into people's mind, we look into people's heart, we look into people's writings and interpret it exactly what they're trying to portray. So we're going to explain that here. Why he see it as illegal when it have not yet been done. It is the right of the people, right, to go out to voice how they feel. But I'm going to explain that. But protest leaders in the small West African nation have vowed to take to the street on April 12th and 13th. Anyway, despite the recent arrest of non-opposition figures. Now, why Faure says the rally is illegal or will be illegal? Why? The reason why he said the rally will be legal or is illegal is because of this. If opposition or if citizens come out, okay, even to march, and it sees to it that it's in line of solidarity of the people, or is about removing Faure, is going to give more momentum to people, because not everyone in the country actually know what is going on, or not everyone in the country actually have, because people just believe that it's just going to be another election, because this is a man, this family have been in power since 1967 and no one have removed them. So he don't want for people to think or to get a courage. So he wants for people to sit home, not to come out, because he knows that if people come out to vote on that day, they will not vote for him, because he knows that citizens in Togo or Togolese want to see him go. So if this rally happens and people get to know that the rally is about removing Faure, what do you think will happen? On the days of election, it will give people the courage to come out, because they're going to have the courage on the 12th and the 13th, because it's a 2-day rally. And that 2-day rally is like a campaign telling people to come out on the 29th to vote, to remove Faure. And that is why he sees it as illegal, because it's going to give the courage to people to come to remove him. Why are we not seeing this on a so-called CNN, on a so-called BBC, on a so-called NBC? Why are we not seeing this on the imperialist channel? Don't touch my constitution. It is our only guarantee and stability. Gerard, a member of the Dominic Power, like majority is a French word, so forgive me how I pronounce it, alliances of parties and civil society organizations to Al Jazeera. Unlike in 1992, when Togo Constitution was approved by an overwhelmingly majority of voters on a high turnout, the people being given no say this time around, he said. So this is why he do not want for the people to come out to rally. So who is Faure Gnassingbe? Togo, a nation of around 8 million people, has been ruled by the Gnassingbe family for nearly 6 decades. Oh man. Do you know how many babies have been born? And these babies are now adults. And these adults never got the opportunity. And they live in a country that is poor, not because it is poor. It is not poor because they don't have the resources or they don't have the land. No, they have the resources. They have everything to their disposal. But it is poor because of the kind of family that is poorly managing the nation and making the imperialists, the colonizer, to loot the resources as he oppressed and step on the neck of the citizen, the people he served. And this is not just to him, but it goes to most African leaders. So who is him? The current president was just 6 months old when his father, General Gnassingbe Ayamandma, seized power in 1967, a few years after participating in the country's first post-colonial coup in 1963. His rule was characterized by brutality. His forces accused by Amnesty International of massacring hundreds after a fraudulent election in 1998. When Faure Lapotent, is a French word, died, his father died in 2005, right? So his father led the country from 1967 to 2005, and he died in office. Just like Liberia. But like I said, the story of Liberia will come out in the near future. Don't worry. The military moved swiftly after that happened. The military moved swiftly. You see, the term of African military, some of them, they are so dumb and stupid. When they are serving, right? Most African military, they do not serve the nation. They serve the president. Most African military, they do not serve the people. They do not serve the nation. They do not serve the interests of even their children. They serve the president, the military, most African nation. So his father led the country 1967 to 2005. With the country being poor. And the military at that time did not understand that, you know what, this is in fact, our future have been destroyed by this man, but we cannot allow this family again to come in power to destroy the life of our children's future. But no, the military did not see it because, like I said, most African military serve the president, not the nation. So the military moved swiftly to instill his 38-year-old son. At that time, the son who is the president was 38. At that time, he was 38 in 2005. because he was born 1967, right? So he was 38 in 2005. So when the fellow died, the military, imagine, the military put him in at that time he was 38. Farouk Gassegui in a presidential palace, provoking widespread fury, standing with his union for the Republic Party. He won election. Shortly afterward, however, the United Nations reported that security forces killed up to 500 people in the ensuing unrest. The United Nations gave this report, but yet and state, all right, the so-called democratic nation, let's continue here, still go and do business with these people. And then they will come by, then it says they love African, they are fighting for African rights, they want to do this, but we're going to get into that, okay? When we come here, we already come with our research, all right? Now, let's continue here. Let me see where I was. Now, in 2007, 2017, and 2018, there were fought up about a deadly unrest. Again, thousands of protesters gathered in the street of Lomé, the Togolese capital, to demand that Gassegui step down. Now, this is what he's saying. The opposition on the 12th, on April 12th and April 13, he said they shouldn't get on the street. You see it? So for so long, so far, the Togolese have been fighting for him to be removed. And he's been killing them. But again, the so-called democratic nation, the so-called human rights, the so-called war police do not see these things, but at the same time, they still go and do business with these people. In 2017 and 2018, there were further bouts of deadly unrest. Thousands of protesters gathered in the street of Lomé, the capital of Togo, to demand that Gassegui step down in accordance with the 2 terms limit, set in the original 1992 Constitution. A provision scrapped when Parliament approved amendment removing presidential term limit in 2002. So 1992, he was to leave because of the 2-term limit after he served his 2 terms. But then what he did, they changed the constitution to no term limit. And he sat down there again. So this time around again, for election, he said no. They have to change it to parliamentary election. Well, few people will go and vote. And then that become the winner. It become the voice of the people. But opposition are saying no. All right? So, where is the father of democracy? The so-called US, I like to speak about democracy. Where is the father of democracy? Why are they not talking about this? Why are they not talking about Farouk? Let there be election. Why are they not supporting the opposition? So that the people can have democracy. Yeah, because the United States want for the world to have democracy, right? The point here is, if there is a democracy, the reality here is, if there is true democracy, the US will not survive. The UK or EU, they will not survive if there is a true democracy. Because there will be no way to bribe those people. There will be no way to intimidate people. And there will be no way to sanction people in the first place. Because democracy means actually true freedom. If we want to go by the definition. True freedom. through decision of the people, no interference. If we want to go by democracy, no interference. Even the leader in our country does not have the power if we want to go by democracy. Not the definition of America, how America defines her democracy. We are talking about the definition of African democracy. Because American democracy means interference. American democracy means sanction. American democracy means you have to be obedient. American democracy means you have to be the subject. American democracy means someone have to be the inferior while someone is the superior. Without those things that are just named, America will not see you as a democratic nation. If America say you are practicing democracy, let me tell you the reality here. The reality here is your leader is inferior while they are superior. Your leader is yes sir. Your leader is slave. Your leader is a puppet. Your leader is a neo-colonialist. That is their meaning of democracy. It means your leader can be someone at any time. You know, when you have your business, when you have your factory, right, as a manager, and that's how the United States and Europe, these colonizers see Africa. They see Africa as their factory. They see Africa as their business area. When you are in charge of a business, when you are running a business, you can summon your employee at any time. They like it or not, they will come. You can summon them at any time. They like it or not, they will come for training. Because if they miss training, you tell them you are fired. Because I summon you for this training and you did not come. You have the right to fire them. That's why you summon people who you have control over. You summon people because you feed them. You summon people because without you, their bank account will be empty. You summon people because without you, they will have no life. And those that refuse to be summoned, they get sanctioned. They get visa restriction. They will not come to your country or to your clinic for treatment. So that's how the US, the Europe see Africa. Africa is their farm. Africa is their business area. So we don't have leader. We do not have leader in most African nations. Those leaders you see in Africa, they are governors. They are governors serving on behalf of the US and Europe. They are not president. We see them in our eyes as president, as leader, but the reality here is they are governor. And that is why a leader who refuses to be governor, they see them as threat. Why will the US don't support Abraham Traore when he's working tirelessly for the people? When he's working to fight jihadi. Oh, I thought they say they want to help Africa to fight terrorists. And Abraham is fighting terrorists day and night. But rather, the people who love Africans so much, they are the ones supporting the terrorists, giving the ammunition to the terrorists. We're going to dive into it deeper. We're going to take this out. So that is what happened in Togo. But opposition are standing strong. The citizens are standing strong. Why would the US not support opposition? Because the last time we checked, the US was in Liberia supporting opposition. And they said the president, George Weah, was not the leader for the people because he was entreating his people. He was corrupt. I mean, all kind of adjectives they used to describe this man. Now, if this man was the worst, Why is the US supporting Faure and not supporting the opposition? But let's go to Liberia. Because when you come to Liberian people, they can sell Liberia for the US. They can sell Liberia. But we'll be coming to Liberia in the near future. Don't worry. We're coming there. We're going to take this article off and put another article there. Okay? Let's see another article here from the opposition. Now, let's see another article here. Togo relay for what? Turmoil. Now, the country president has delayed election indefinitely, but the political opposition is prepared for a fight. Now, this fight happened after this fight, and then he changed his mind to say, okay, let us have election on April 29. All right. So this is the Faure mayor here. All right. So let's continue here. Let's read something here. Let's read something here quick. Togo rewrite constitution, postponing election. Last week, Togo postponed legislative election that have been scheduled for April 20. That was the time for the election. Well, today the 21st. In fact, that was yesterday. The election should have taken place. Okay, that was yesterday. The election should have taken place. And then by now, Faure should have been out today, or even yesterday he should have been out, and then the Togolese was going to have a new president. But let's read. Last week, Togo postponed legislative election that have been scheduled for April 20, following a potential constitutional reform. The office of the president, Faure Gansegbe, said more consultation over the changes were needed before a new election date could be announced. What kind of changes? What kind of changes he needed? Changes for vote to be here in parliament, where you'll be able to bribe people, and then those people, they vote, and then that will become the voice of the people. That's the changes he was talking about. I guess not. Now, on March 25th, Togo National Assembly adopted a charter that will transform the country from a presidential to a parliamentary system. Executive power will lie with a president of the Council of Ministers, effectively a prime minister, while Togo executive presidencies will be reduced to a ceremonial rule, just for him to stay in power. These are the changes he was talking about, just for him to stay in power. The National Assembly will elect the president to a single 6 terms, to a single 6 term. Abolishing direct rule. Abolishing direct rule. Direct rule, that means the people will be taken out of politics. But hey, the US believe in democracy, right? Why they did not talk? Why are they not talking? Look, African, it's about time we stop this nonsense of relying on the West. It's about time we stop this nonsense of relying on the West, of how government supposed to be in Africa, of how leadership supposed to be in Africa. It is about time we stop this nonsense. Togo opposition argued that the reform are a policy to keep the unpopular gov't in power, avoiding being voted out by a public warrant of precedent serving for life. He was never elected, he said, and he know that the Togolese people are lying in wait for him to be the next election. To be the next elections. Opposition politician Brigette Ajamabo Johnson told Radio France International, Togo gained independence from France in 1960 and has been largely run by gov't family since. Gov't father seized power in 1967. Military coup and the younger gov't succeeded him in 2005. After his death in office, he served 4 terms. That means, okay, let's continue. He served 4 terms then, which was possible because in 2002, the constitution has been amended to abolish a 2 terms limit, allowing the elderly gov't to stand again. Now, let's take this out. Because of time, we will not read all. But you get the picture on how we're going, right? Ooh, I deleted something I shouldn't have done. Let me see. That was too fast. I deleted something, folks. I need to go back and get it. Let me see here. Let me see. Hold on. If not, then I will then I'll be mixing my entire let me see. I deleted something. I shouldn't have deleted it. Oh, yeah. Okay, I will get it. For now, I will get it. I will get it. Once I reach to it, I will get it, and then I have to go to my email and pull it out. I will get it. I have in my email, but I will have to get it. So let's continue here. So I take that out. Let me see the next one. Where we going? Okay. So let's see a video here from the people. And this is what he saw. And he said that people shouldn't get on the street, right? So let's see a video here. Hopefully, I didn't take it out, but let's see. I think it should still be here. If not, I will go pull it out. Don't worry, I have it in my email. All right, it's still here, but I will still get it when I delete it. It was too fast, but we're gonna get it. If not, I don't want to mess up my presentation. All right, so this is Togo right here. This is Togo when the people came out. So this is what he tried to stop. All right, but opposition leader said to him, it's not going to happen.
Another West African country is starting a fight for complete freedom. Tensions are on the rise in Togo, following the adoption of a new constitution on March 25, 2024. The constitution now grants Parliament the power to elect the President of the Republic, which means that the Togolese will no longer have the privilege of electing their president. This change has caused unrest among the people, and the situation has been further aggravated by the indefinite postponement of the legislative and regional elections, which were originally scheduled for April 20, 2024. As a result, the political opposition and civil society organizations have taken to the streets in protests. They are calling for their voices to be heard and demanding that the government address their concerns. However, instead of addressing the situation, the government has responded with repression and arrests. Togo is a small country with a population of approximately 9 million people as of 2020.
Have you ever heard of drinking warm water before bed for high blood sugar and type 2? Thousands of people.
24. However, despite its size, it has been ruled by the same family for an astonishing 57 years. The country was initially led by Eyadema Nasingbe, who came to power in a military coup in 1967 and ruled with an iron fist until his death in 2005. He was succeeded by his son, Faure Nasingbe, who has been in office ever since. Faure Nasingbe's ascension to power was highly controversial, with the opposition alleging that the elections were rigged in his favor. This sparked widespread protests across the country, with many Togolese demanding an end to the family's long reign. However, the protests were met with brutal repression, with security forces using tear gas and live ammunition to disperse crowds. Despite this, the opposition has continued to push for democratic reforms and an end to the Nasingbe dynasty. In 2017, a wave of protests erupted across the country, with thousands taking to the streets to demand the president's resignation and an overhaul of the political system. These protests were met once again with a violent crackdown, with dozens of people killed and hundreds arrested. Looking at what is happening now, the new Togolese constitution brings about significant changes in the country's political landscape. One of the most notable changes is the elimination of direct voting rights for the presidential election.
Sometimes, the only thing more difficult than running a business is...
Instead, a parliamentary government system will be introduced, where the president will be elected by members of parliament, instead of through universal voting rights. It appears that the leader is employing a strategy to uphold their position of authority and secure their family's legacy in power. However, one potential concern is that the new constitution does not take into account the time already spent in power. This could potentially allow Faure Nasingbe, who has been in power since 2005, to remain in office until 2031 if he is re-elected in 2025. Additionally, the presidential term has been extended by 1 year, from 5 to 6, while limiting the number of mandates to 1. Experts suggest that the power will now rest in the hands of the President of the Council of Ministers, who will assume the role of Prime Minister, appointed by the deputies. The proposal to create the position of President of the Council of Ministers in Togo has caused a stir among the opposition. This new position would hold sovereign functions, granting the holder real power. The mandate for this position is set at 6 years, with no indication of whether it can be renewed or not. The opposition's concern is that President Faure Nasingbe may be appointed to this role, allowing him to remain in power indefinitely. The initiators of these reforms have put forward a compelling argument, claiming that the changes will bolster democracy, enhance the protection of citizens' rights and freedom, and promote greater efficiency and representativeness in institutions. They also propose a shift towards a parliamentary system for greater governmental stability and a political framework that encourages citizens to engage more actively in decision-making processes. Despite these lofty goals, the opposition and civil society are up in arms, denouncing the move as a constitutional coup d'etat and accusing the president of attempting to cling to power. The Conference of Bishops of Togo has raised concerns about the timing of a proposed constitutional reform. They have urged the president to delay the implementation of the new constitution and instead prioritize an inclusive political dialogue. The bishops believe that this dialogue should occur after the upcoming legislative and regional elections have taken place. Following widespread protests in response to the adoption of this new constitution, President Faure Nasingbe has requested a re-examination of the text in the National Assembly. In light of the political tensions, the president has also postponed the legislative and regional elections originally slated for April 20, 2024, with no new date set yet. To address the concerns of the people, the National Assembly will embark on a 3-day tour across the country to consult traditional leaders and various organized groups on how to improve the Constitution. This campaign, known as the Information and Listening Tour of the Populations on the Revision of the Constitution, aims to present the new Constitution to the public and gather their feedback. Meanwhile, the opposition and civil society have called for 3 days of demonstrations on April 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2024, as part of their counterattack actions against the new Constitution. Even though this is something that can't be considered due to past experiences, some news sources are reporting that a group of
See what most frustrating about this, right? Look, this is Africa, folks. This is what baffles some of us. Now, and this is not just only Togo. Okay, so the picture you see, that's how most, in fact, that's how Africa look like, most area. I'm not talking about the fancy area where these politicians live. And then when a European or American government or diplomat go to Africa, then the places they go are the nice places where those in office or in offices live, and then they meet there. But on a regular basis, this is how people live in Africa. How can the richest continent, whose citizens are being referred to as the poorest in the world? How? How can that happen? The richest continent in the world, how can 8 people be referred to as the poorest? And then the poorest country in the world are the richest country in the world. How can the poorest country in the world, the poorest countries with an S in the world, the poorest continent with an S in the world, are the richest continents with an S, are the richest countries with an S. But the richest continent, the richest nations on a continent of Africa, 8 people are the poorest. The continent is not poor, but 8 people are poor. Why? And then the poorest nation, the poorest continent in the world, 8 people are rich. How can it be the other way? The continent is poor, but their people are rich. And then where the continent is rich, their people are poor. Why? How can America, how can North American citizens be richer than African citizens? How can European citizens are the richest than African citizens? How? What is wrong with our leaders? What is wrong with African leaders? See how your people are living in Africa. The people you serve, see how they are living. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Even when you're sick, then you're running, coming to Europe and America for treatment. Are your people able to run to Europe and America for treatment? Who are you serving on the African continent? Are you serving America? Are you serving Europe? The colonizer, the enslaver, the rapists that rape your mothers, your sisters, your children, your forefathers, that raped them, castrated them, bred them. The people that took your mother and father as barbecue. They kill your people, put them on a stake, light fire, cross them, and make it out of barbecue, and they start taking picture on it. That's what they did to your people. And that's what they are still doing to your people. What is wrong with Africans? How can the richest continent in the world, 8 people are the poorest, and then the poorest continent in the world, 8 people are the richest? How can it be the other way around? How? I thought the poorest continent in the world, 8 people should be the poorest people. I thought the poorest nation in the world, 8 people supposed to be the poorest. And then the richest continent in the world, 8 people be the richest. But how can it be the other way around? And you Africans, you guys sit and watch. Do you like this kind of life that your people are living? Do you really? And then at the same time, you serve as president, Europe and America will come and insult your people. How poor your people are. How suffering your people are. And you sit in those nations and you agree to the insult being rained on your people, and you love it. You will sit and look at them, tell you how disease are in Africa, and you love those things to be told to your people.
Eleven civil society organizations in Togo have voiced their concerns over the postponement of elections and the government's proposed constitutional revision. They argue that the holding of legislative and regional elections, which are constitutionally mandated, should not be connected to the government's controversial constitutional changes. The coalition has called on the international community to take action, condemning the government's restriction of citizens' rights to protest and urging the United States, the European Union, Germany, France, the African Union, and ECOWAS to push for the International Criminal Court to investigate the situation in Togo before it's too late. While the government asserts that it is not repressing its opposition, but rather maintaining public order, the civil society organizations maintain that the situation is dire and requires immediate attention. The political tensions in Faure Gnassingbé's country are a cause for concern. As the mediator in the affair of the 49 Ivorian soldiers detained in Mali, the question arises, how far will these tensions go? Unfortunately, this is not the first time that political violence has plagued the nation. To make matters worse, the country is also dealing with terrorist incursions in its northern region.
Now, so that is Togo, all right? So in this video, you have mostly, you can conclude now that you know the reason why Faure, at the end of the video, the individual you saw there, that's Faure there. That's the family. That's Gnassingbé there. All right? So you saw in this video the reason he did not want the rally to happen. The reason he saw the rally as illegal. Because through that rally, you saw how it enlightened the public. It enlightened even the chiefs. Imagine the chiefs. It gave them awareness that they have to put it on their calendar to come out April 29 to unseat this American puppets, to unseat this European puppets, to unseat this dictator, to unseat this American democracy. Did you see that? So he sees his defeat coming. But this is what I want to say to the Togolese. This is your chance. And one thing I want to tell them, do not allow American representative into that election. Do not allow European representative into that election. You already know who you want, and you already know who you want out. You already know who you want, and you already know who you want out. And let me say this to the military. Just remember, you are not the military for Farouk. Just remember, you are the military for the people. Just remember, you are the military for the citizens. Just remember, you are the military for the future of your own children. Don't you want your child or your children too to become president of Togo? Don't you want it? Don't you want your daughter to become president for Togo? Don't you want it? Don't you want your son to become president for Togo? Don't you want it? Don't you want to have an environment that will be free from interference of the US, from interference of Europe, from interference of this racist nation that call us a democratic nation? Don't you want it? So on our day, April 29, you are not the president, or you are not the military for individual person, for Farouk. You are the military for the nation. You are the military for the Constitution. And the Constitution is not there to protect Farouk. The Constitution is there to protect every citizen of Togo. Henceforth, you are a public servant. You are not a Farouk servant. You are not a presidential servant. You are a public servant. If you are a public servant, you serve the people. So on that day, for the Togolese, do not have American representative and do not have European representative. Do not have any representative for France. Monitor your own elections. You know who you want, and you know who you want out. That's my little advice for you. And the military on our day should protect the interest of the people. Because the interest of the people is your children's future. I think you want one day to stand and be proud and say, I served this country as a military man. And I did it because I wanted my sons or daughter to become president. And today my son is president as a military man. Don't you want that? Be warned. I know you want that. On that day, serve the interests of the people. Know that you are a public servant, not Farouk servant. Let's continue to the next stage. Now, let's go to DRC. And DRC is going to serve as the talking point for all Africa, for the African continent, the talking point of what we are about to say here. So this is not just about DRC Congo. It's DRC Congo need be mentioned here, but DRC Congo is going to serve as the case study for all the rest of the African nation in what we are about to discuss here. Let's go. Now, it says Chinese mining. Chinese mining wrecking life in DRC Congo. Chinese mining destroying life in DRC Congo. Now, you see, we have said this before, and we're going to say it again. After experiencing what we went through in the hands of America when it comes to slavery, when it comes to exploitation, when it comes to dehumanizing, when it comes to killing our African leaders, When it comes to sexual, I mean, everything you can think about inhumanely, America have done to Africa, Europe have done to Africa. After everything we have been through, we have not yet learned as Africans. We have not. We have not yet learned as Africans. We have not. And this is why we're going to say, and we have said it, and we're going to keep saying it. You know, you can make mistake one, but I don't think you can make mistake twice, and then you still say it's mistake. Maybe the first one can be mistake, but not second, not third, not fourth. I mean, fifth, sixth, on and on and on and on and on, and then you say mistake. That's not mistake. I don't think so. And we will say this again. If the Chinese are doing anything illegal or anything in Africa, not in the interest of Africa, in fact, if the Chinese are ill-treating Africans, I don't blame them. I always say it here, I don't blame them. I will blame the leader. Because after what we have been through in the hands of America and Europe for over 600-700 years, and even up to 9, we still, and then we can learn and say, no, the thing America did to us, the thing Europe did to us, the thing North America and Europe did to we Africans, the thing that did to we black, we will not allow anyone to do it to us. We will not allow anyone to do it to us. That should be the first thing we should look at every morning we wake up. What America did to us, what Europe did to us, we will not allow any nation to do it to us again. America enslaved us. We will not allow no one to enslave us. America colonized us. We will not allow anyone to colonize us. Europe enslaved us. Europe colonized us. We will not allow anyone to do it. The Middle East enslaved us. We will not allow anyone. The Middle East took us as slaves. We will not allow anyone to do it to us. The Middle East came and did it to us. North America came and did it to us. In fact, worse than the Middle East. Europe came and did it to us. In fact, worse than the Middle East. Millions of Africans died on seas. Millions of Africans died in DRC Congo. Millions of Africans died when they were being taken from Ghana to Europe, from Sierra Leone to Europe to America, from Nigeria to Europe to America, from Tanzania to Europe to America, from Kenya to Europe to America. All these places have the slave dungeon. And currently, as we speak, we see it. They are there. And we see the history. They are there. And we don't take that as a history of companion to us that we should see every day to remind us. And then we still allow the Chinese to come and do what the European did to us in this current time. And we still blame China to say, oh, the Chinese are there, the Chinese are that. First of all, the thing America did to us to seize our land, the thing the European did to us to seize our land, the thing the so-called leopard did in DRC Congo, the Chinese are not doing the same thing. The Chinese are coming with their paper. They are coming and sit on the table. Europe did not sit on the table. Europe did not sit on the table to discuss with Africans. America did not sit on the table to discuss with Africans, to enslave Africans, to colonize Africa, right? The Chinese are coming and sitting down on the table. And Africans, now you are land. For some other reason, during slavery colonization time, maybe I would say our leader there at that time, they did not learn. They had no idea, right, about what may happen. But now, you African in a position of leadership, you have learned. You know what went on, and you know what is going on. And when the Chinese come, they come with their own paper. Are you telling me you're not reading what is in our paper? When the Chinese come, they are not coming with their trucks, with their guns, with their airplane, with their air force, with their bases, and then coming to DRC Congo or coming to African land, and then going straight to the mine. They are not coming to just do that. They are coming with agreement. And the African leader take it. They are coming with their money. And the African leader take it. And they sit down and they sign it. I don't know if they read those papers. And then before the Chinese go in. Even though we're going to talk about this, but I'm not going to blame the Chinese. I will blame the people in DRC Congo. I mean the leaders. We will blame the leaders in DRC Congo. Not the Chinese. The leaders in DRC Congo. Now, before I even read, let me say something here. You see, what happened in Africa is the same thing happening in Europe and America, in black community, in black neighborhood. Let's do this. In black community, the resources are there, right? You can agree to me. The resources are there. And when I say the resources, I mean the finances, I mean the catch are there, right? But with the catch being in a black community, right? But they still say we are poor. The catch, the money is in a black community. But the black community in the US are the poorest, going alongside with the Mexican. And that can even go to Europe as well. The black community in Europe are the poorest. But yet then, the money, the capital is there. How do I know? In the black community, you see all nationality businesses, corner store. Where are they coming from? The black money, the black dollar. That's the resources in the black community. So they come in with their corner store, with their stores and things. They take your dollar and they don't live there. Listen to the point. They do not live in a black community because they said the black community is full of disease. The black community is full of gangster and thugs. The black community no good educational system. The black community no good healthcare system. So if they come and live in a black community, the chance of survival, the chances of survival is limited. I want you to get the picture. I'm going to Africa. I'm trying to make a point here. So in the black community, the dollars are the resources. So they bring their stores in a black community and they get the money. They don't live there. They get the money and then they take it out in their community and then develop their community more and more. And then the state even add to it and gave them funding. The city add to it and gave them funding. But again, we have leaders in the black community. Be with me. This thing is a curse. We have leaders in the black community here. Now, while in other community, then the state or the city gave them money to do other development, to take care of their schools, educational system and thing. In the black community, to some extent, money are given. But our leaders in the black community, they see where African leaders on the African continent are corrupt. That's how our black leaders in our community here are also corrupt. Now, the same way these foreigners, I'm calling them foreigners because they don't live in a black community, right? The same way these foreigners come in a black community with their businesses and they don't live there. And they get the black money and then they insult black people. And then they call police on black people. Yeah, then they are taking the black money, right? These aliens that come in the black community. It is the same way in Africa. The resources are there. Just how in a black community, the resources are here, which is the capital, right? It is the same way. These foreigners, America, Washington, D.C., Europe, Australia, they go in Africa with their resources or whatsoever, and then they extract the resources from there. They bring it into Europe, into America, and develop their place, and they leave Africa. So you see the comparison there. So in Africa, we have the raw material, and then this foreigner, this alien, will come to Africa or will go to Africa and get the resources. And then they see where in the black community they say they cannot live in a black community because the educational system is poor, the healthcare system is poor, okay? Disease in a black community, poverty in a black community. That's how they do it to Africa. And then they say disease in Africa, poverty in Africa, no educational system, no this, no that. But they look at our resources and bring it to Europe and America. Now, just the same way we have black leaders in America here who fear their people, that's how we have black leaders on the African continent who fear their people. That's the comparison I want to do first. Now, let's go to Togo. DRC. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is home to some of the world's most sought after mineral. 4/5 of the world cobalt, 4 to 5 of the world cobalt, a critical component in battery used in electric vehicle and electronic devices, is in DRC, along with more than 70% of global production. Now, Africans, we asked this question and we're going to ask this question again. We asked this question before, we ask it again. Why will the rest of the world know that their survival lies on Africa, but African does not know that their survival lies on Africa? America is saying in order for America to survive, her survivability lies on Africa. But Africans are there saying the only way Africa can survive is through America. Europe is saying the only way Europe will survive is Africa. And Africans are saying the only way Africa can survive is Europe. If Europe said no to Africa, Africa is dead. If America said no to Africa, Africa is dead. Now, don't believe me. We're gonna prove it to death here from the horses themselves mouth. So when will we realize? Because America have realized it, Europe have realized. China. Everyone have realized it, that for them to survive, it will be Africa. If Africa said no, they are dead. But how can we Africans, we don't know that? For lack of knowledge, my people perish. And you know, those proverbs were things that were said by our forefathers. But we are so dumb and stupid, and we believe that it was written by some white man in the Bible that we call today Bible. But our forefathers, those were proverbs, and that's why even the Bible is written a proverb. Those are things that were said by our forefathers, that our generation, the generation we're living behind, and the generation of Africa to come, they will suffer because of lack of knowledge. And that means, you know what that means? Our forefathers, they were saying that because they will not come by again. They will not talk to you physically of what you got. Because Europe is telling you, Africa, you are our survival, you are our safety. America is telling you, Africa, you are our safety. I mean, all the rest of the continent are telling African people, you are our safety. But Africans, because of the lack of knowledge, stupidity, we stay sitting down there. DRC Congo also hold the world's 7th largest reserve of copper and is the 3rd largest producer. The country and its people should be on a verge of an economic boom. But then what happened if we are not? The constitution states that all Congolese people have the right to enjoy the natural resources of the nation. Then why are the people suffering? Why? Why? This time around, China did not go to DRC Congo like Europe and America, where they were putting knife on African throat, where they were cutting their hand, they were cutting their legs. DRC Congo, China did not intimidate people like how the European and American intimidate Africans by putting sanctions and all of those things. So we will not come here and say, oh, China exploiting the resources, China getting the this, they are carrying it, they are this, they are that. We are going to the source. How did it happen? How did they get to that point? Now, I'm going to read something, I will take it out and then get to the point I want to get. China owns most of the industrial mine in the DRC and is responsible for child labor, horrific working and living conditions, as well as systemic eviction of residents who live on its vast concession. Concession here, the resources, who live on its vast resources. I just made a comparison. Why the richest continent on planet Earth, 8 people are the poorest? Why the richest nation on planet Earth, 8 people are the poorest? And the poorest nation on planet Earth, 8 people are the richest. The poorest continent on planet Earth, 8 people are the richest. Why? And let me make this clear. Let me take this thing out and then make my point clear. We'll get to the next point, because we're running out of time. Let me say this here. Let me say this clear before we continue. If we are solely depending on Europe and America, we see them as investors, we are going nowhere. And by the way, let me say this. Investor does not mean someone coming into your country and taking your resources. That's not investment. How can it be an investment? Someone taking your resources and taking it to Europe and America and call it investment. Let me make this clear. Maybe you don't understand it. Now, if America come to your country, if Europe come to your country, and they come with their business and do concession agreement whatsoever, and then they hire your people. Let me make this clear. They hire some of your people on the mine, because that's how Africa think investment or investor are. And then they come, they hire some of your people on the mine, and they pay you, right? That's not investment. That is not an investment. Just because your people are working on the mine, that's not investment. That's looting. They are looting you. They are looting your resources. It is not investment, because it is doing nothing for your citizens. The investment is they are taking your resources to their country to invest in their country. That is the investment. You are investing in their country because your resources is being taken to their country to invest in their country. And not just that. Your resources will be used to sell to other countries. And then they are dollar. They are dollar. So basically, you are improving their economy. You are investing in their economy. Now, your own resources that they looted from you, you think they are investing because you see, look, you can have hundreds of companies into your country. It is not investment. They are looting your resources. You can have hundreds of concession agreements in your country. That is not an investment. They are looting your resources and taking it to Europe, in America, to invest in their economy. That is not an investment. You don't even have a currency to trade in. You call that investment? You do not have a currency to trade in. You call that investment? How can you even have 60, 70, 80, 100 concession agreement into your country and you call that investment? You call that investors? While they loot your resources and taking it to Europe and America, investing in their country, then you say they are investors? What is the generational wealth you're going to create in our country? What is the generational wealth you're going to create in our country for the next generation to come? But they come in and loot your resources and they're taking it to their country, providing an avenue for their next generation to come. And then the next generation to come in Africa, all we see in Africa in your country are all pop holes. All pop holes. That's the kind of investment they're going to see. All pop holes. A dangerous continent because those pop holes will be dangerous. That's the kind of investment. So by you having foreigners into your country and coming and signing papers and signing deeds, that is not an investment. They are looting you. That is looting. They are looting your resources. It is not investment. Investment is where you are your own developer. You are your own miner. You mine, okay? You are your own processor. You process your own resources. You are your own decision maker. And then you sell to whosoever you want to sell to in your own damn currency. Not in the US currency, and not in European pound. That is what you call investment. You allow people to come and loot your resources. And then you come and say, oh, the government just signed another concession agreement with this American company. They just signed another concession agreement with this Swedish company. They just signed another concession agreement with this Canadian company. They just signed another concession agreement with this blah 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 blah. And then all those people, they take away your resources, and then you call it investment. Nonsense. No African leader should be signing any concession agreement with any alien, with any foreigner in your country. Do you see any alien in America signing concession agreement for American resources, even if they have some, for their resources to be taken to China, for their resources to be taken to Europe? Have you ever heard that? Have you ever heard say Chinese resources are being taken by American coming to Europe, coming to America? Have you ever heard say a Chinese man signing a concession agreement with American? Have you ever heard say European signing concession agreement with Chinese? Have you ever heard say the Australian Prime Minister signed concession agreement with American, with European to take their resources? Have you ever heard it? Only in dumpiest Africa, you will hear that. And then they call the investor. What is the meaning and definition of investor in your mind? looting your resources to their country, you call that investors? Go do your research. Where in the world any European nation have signed any agreement with outsiders to go in their country to take their resources? Where? Where in America here you see the American government signing concession agreement with outsiders to take their oil if they have some, to take their gold if they have some, to take their uranium if they have some into another country? Where? Where in China have you heard say the Chinese, how they call it, American diplomat went to China to sign a concession agreement to loot to take the Chinese resources to bring it into America? Where? If they have, where? No nation doing it. Can't you see? That is why in Saudi Arabia they cannot do gay and lesbian thing there. But the United States cannot talk. The United States do not go and take advantage of them. In fact, the U.S. go there and buy their oil. The U.S. will not go to Saudi Arabia and to go do concession agreement for the U.S. to be taking their oil, their raw material, bringing it to U.S. Because that will not create job for the people. But rather, the U.S. respect the people custom and then go there and make deal with them to see how they can buy their oil on a reasonable price, on a negotiable price. But the U.S. does not go there to take the raw material, the raw oil, and bring it to America for finished product. They don't do it. Why only in Africa? There's nowhere in the world where people will come and take a resource and you call that investor. How is that investment? How is that an investment? Taking your resources, taking it to different countries, you call that investment, and then leaving pop holes? So investment is pop holes. That's what you call investment. No matter how you can have 9 million concession agreement in your country, it's never going to build your country. You better fight hard to build the human development capacity of your country. If you ask an American about investment, they will tell you build the human capacity development of your country because they are the investor. You ask the Chinese, the same thing. You ask Europe, the same thing. Build the human development. Focus on your citizens. Do not focus on outsiders. But let's continue here. Without Europe or without Africa, Europe can survive, America can survive. I didn't say it. They are the ones saying it, and we come and see it right now. They all know it. Only African, we don't know. We're stupid and dumb. And we think we went to the best schools. We went to the best American school. We went to the best European school. Those are the things we boast of. Those are the things Africans boast of. But at the end of the day, if you can't do anything to uplift your people, at the end of the day, if you cannot educate the mindset of your people, you are a fool. Your education is nothing. Now, let's see what one of the American said. This lady, and she have a higher office. So let's see what they said here, right? Now, we're going to connect the dot here. Now, let me take this IE first. Now, let me make this thing. Everything you see going on around the world, what are the war in Ukraine? It's about Africa. We've been saying it here, but some of you don't get it. You don't get it. The war in Ukraine is about Africa. The war you see in Palestine, in Gaza, is also about Africa. These people are testing. They are testing their power because they know it's going to go down. You believe it or not, it's going to go down. It's not going like this. It's going to go down. America see her failure coming. You think they're going to sit down and fold their hand and then it happen? No. They are going to fight. Then if they fight and lose, at least they try. Don't you get it? They are going to try to fight. If they lose, at least they will say they try. Even the generation that will come after them will say, our forefather, our parent tried. Because their generation that will come after them will not say our forefather did not try. They will say our forefather tried. Because they know it's going down. And they will not sit there and fold their hand to go down. So the war, the situation that is happening around, is about Africa. And I will tell you why. We do our research, we sit down, we speak to our forefather. Spiritually, they get into our heads and interpret it and make us to understand why things are happening. Let's continue here.
Presents, the balloons, and the raptor cake.
That it was a time. Now, because Africa has now fallen.
Auto insurance all seems the same until it's time to use it. With USAA, it's easy to file claims.
All right, everyone, thank you.
All right, I have no copyright to the video. It's just for educational purpose and to enlighten my people.
Thank you all for joining me today. Okay, so I've got a very important video for you guys today, and I want to talk about this. It's regarding the current global situation that's going on right now in the world, and how Africa, again, is smack in the middle of all of this. And I want to talk to you guys about a recent testimony that was given by Dr. Celeste Wallander, who is the assistant. She is the Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs for the United States. She sat right in front of the House Armed Service Committee to give her testimony regarding the U.S. defense around the world, U.S. partnership around the world, and who are the most significant and essential partners for the United States defense, as well as the United States as a country. I want you to take a look at what she says about Africa, and I'll be right back.
Significant U.S. assistance to Israel aims at ensuring that what happened on October 7th can never be repeated. The United States unequivocally stands for the protection of civilian lives during armed conflict, consistent with the law of war. We continue to underscore with Israel and regional counterparts, both publicly and privately, the importance of obligations related to civilian harm mitigation and risks of conflict to civilians during Israel's operations against Hamas. We closely monitor the situation in Lebanon to Israel's north. We continue working to contain the conflict while deterring state and non-state actors seeking to escalate tensions. DoD continues to hold Iran and its proxies accountable for their attacks on U.S. and coalition forces. We do not seek conflict in the Middle East, but attacks on American forces will not be tolerated, and we remain postured and prepared.
So, I know the individual who had the video want to speak, right? And he nailed it. So I'm going to allow him to speak. But let me make this clear. She said they do not see any conflict in the Middle East. You and myself here live watching, and to those of you that will watch the recording, do you believe there is no conflict in the Middle East? That's one question I want to ask you. Do you believe there is no conflict in the Middle East? Did you see why we cannot rely and we should not rely on the U.S.? Because what we call peace, the U.S. does not see it as peace. And what the U.S. call peace, that's not what they see as peace into other countries. So if they cannot see that there is a crisis in the Middle East, do you think they see the situation in DRC Congo? Do you think they see it? Do you think they see the crisis happening around the African continent? You will be delusional to think that they see it, or they think the way you think. You heard it. The same way they say they don't think there is crisis in the Middle East, that's how they think there is no crisis in Africa, because they sponsor the proxy war. How can they see that there is crisis in Africa when they are the one creating the crisis? Who killed Gaddafi? And since they killed Gaddafi, what have become of Libya? I mean, get the point. Since they killed Gaddafi, what have become of Libya? Since they killed Patrick Lumumba, what became of DRC Congo? So they don't see it as crisis. They see it as freedom to them, because it gave them the urge or the opportunity to loot the resources. It gave them the opportunity to loot the resources, and she's going to make it clear in this video. She's going to make it clear in this video. Why? I don't want to say it. I want it to come from her mouth. And it will come from her mouth. I don't want to say it. But the issue here is, what we see as peace, they don't see it as peace. Because what we see as peace, they see it to them as a threat, because it's a threat to their survival. And she made it clear in this video again. What we see as peace is a threat to their survival. So what Gaddafi was fighting for, it was a threat to their survival. That's why they killed him. And since they killed Gaddafi, what have become of Libya? Since they killed Thomas Sankara, what became of Burkina Faso? Since they killed Patrick Lumumba, what became of DRC Congo? Since they killed Amilcar Cabral, Guinea-Bissau, what became of Guinea-Bissau today? So they love the chaos. They love when we are fighting among ourselves, because you know what? When we are fighting among ourselves, we don't focus on development. We focus on how to survive. And that's the kind of moves they always want to pour in. They always want to pour in a move where we will only have one set of mind, one mindset. And that one mindset is, how can we survive today and live for tomorrow and see the next day? That's the only thing we'll focus on. So, she said they don't see anything in the Middle East. They don't see no conflict, right?
To use all means necessary to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran, while working to counter Iran's destabilizing attacks on U.S. and coalition forces. We do not seek conflict in the Middle East, but attacks on American forces will not be tolerated, and we remain postured.
So you see that we do not see conflict in the Middle East. So what they see in the Middle East is attack on American forces. What are American forces doing in the Middle East? For God's sake. Now, they go to you, African. What are American forces doing in Africa? You heard it. They do not see conflict in the Middle East, but attack on American forces in them. What are American forces doing in the Middle East? Let me make this clear again. You see, Africans, this is how dumb and stupid to all nations that have foreign bases. You guys are dumb and stupid. Why do you allow foreign bases in your country? So you see what happened in the Middle East. They allow foreign bases there, but now you're hearing it. They do not see conflict. So even with the terrorist activities, so that means they don't care when they say they are coming in your country to help you to fight terrorists. Did you see that? They do not see conflict in the Middle East, but any attack on American forces, do you hear that? But I got an article for you that I will also read what she said in that article. Then you will see.
And prepared to use all means necessary to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran while working to counter Iran's destabilizing activities. On the AFRICOM AO.
Now, sorry that I went back. I'm going to take this video. I'm going to come back to this video, right? But I want to bring an article to make a reference to what she said about Iran. Now, bear in mind again, like I said, everything is about Africa. Now, do you know why the United States sponsored Israel to go to Iran to kill those two revolutionary leaders? You don't get it, man. You don't get it. You know, recently, the nation in Africa, in West Africa there, that total out the French, that total out the French army, and then also throwing out the U.S. military. Those nations turn to Russia and Iran for support. Not in terms of money, not in terms of World Bank or IMF, but in terms of military supply and training. So what they did, they went, they killed the Iranian two revolutionary leaders. So when you heard her making that statement, we do not see conflict in the Middle East, but any attempt on American forces, we will by any means necessary. Now they are using Malcolm X's statement, any means necessary. And when Malcolm X made that statement, we know during the time period he made that statement. Right? So there is a connection in between there. What she's trying to say. So the way they kill the two revolutionary leaders in Iran to weaken the relationship that this African nation was trying to have with Iran. Because right now, Iran will now, they are weak. They are grieving because two powerful men were just killed by US and Israel. Right? Let's see something here. Let's see something right here. Maybe you won't get it here. Let me explain clear. Let me explain clear. Claire, hold on. Did I? Yes, I think I have it here. Hold on. Okay. Let me make it clear to you so you can see what I'm talking about here. Everything is related. They are all related here. Okay? They are all related here. Let me see right here. Let me pull that article out. Let me see right here what Joe Biden said. Okay? Now, I know we talked about it yesterday, but I want to connect the dots. Now, let's see here. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so this was Joe Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister, right? Now, so this was Joe Biden talking to the Israeli Prime Minister, and I will just start from here. U.S. President Joe Biden reportedly told the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during a phone call on Saturday that the U.S. will not support any Israeli counterattack against Iran, according to a senior White House official, right? Now, so, because the aim of Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu have been accomplished, right? So this is what Joe Biden said. So, he's not saying this because he loves Iran. He's not saying this, oh, the U.S. will not do any counterattack with Israel. The reason here is their aim have been accomplished. So why would they want to go there? Because they already weakened Iran. So look what it said, what Joe Biden said here to Benjamin Netanyahu. He said, you got the win. You have win. You have gotten the win. So what is the importance of even going there when you already won? You already took down the two powerful men in the people, among the people. So let them grieve. You already took them down. So they have nothing to hope on. So why are we going there for? So you win. Take the win, right? Listen to this. So he said, you have win. You have got the win. Take the win. And then Biden also advised Netanyahu to acknowledge their victory, to acknowledge the U.S. and Israel. Imagine, this is a plural there. Okay? He acknowledged Benjamin Netanyahu to take their victory, highlighting the effectiveness of the U.S. and Israel, their joint defense endeavor. You see it? So, here it is. So what they did here. So when they know that, when the U.S. and Israel, especially the U.S. know that these African nations, or also Europe, these African nations are allying, okay, with Iran, with Russia, definitely you know how how threatening it's going to be to them. Because these are two nations that involved in nuclear building, in nuclear power, right? And African nations are turning towards them, making deal with them. So, and this is how the U.S. been doing, the U.S. and Europe been doing in Africa. They will come and kill the most powerful person who is actually encouraging and forcing the movement. They kill them, and then it kill the movement of everybody, right? It kill the energy of everybody, right? That's why Joe Biden was telling Benjamin Netanyahu, why you get to worry? We already finished taking the most two powerful people among them. Where would they go? They have nothing to do. So take the win. Let's take the win and move on. They have nothing to do. We weaken them. So, on April 1st, Israel conducted an airstrike on Iran consulate building in Damascus, resulting in the death of 7 individuals, including 2 Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps general. Okay, so we're going to go to the video back. So you see right here, right? So that was right, because why would they go bomb Israel? They're fighting now. I mean, not Israel. Why would they want to go bomb Iran to kill these people? Right? Let's look at this. They're fighting between Palestine, Gaza, right, and Israel. Iran have not yet even intervened. Iran have not come to intervene. The only time you saw Iran was during the UN resolution when they voted for, how they call it, peace. But Iran have not interfered to say, hey, Israel, you are doing this, in the Middle East, you are doing this, we are coming to fight alongside our brother. No. So then, why would Israel go and target these people? Why? And go back to Africa again. You think these people are going to give up easily to leave Africa? They will go against anyone who try to uplift or to work with Africa to be uplifted. They will work to break down that person. They will work to bring down that person. You think America and Europe are going to give up easily and just fold their hand? They know it's going down. They will not just sit down and go down. They will not sit and then let it go down. They are going to fight by every means. So now Iran have to pull back. And in pulling back, the agreement with them in Africa is going to take some time, either a couple of months. And within a couple of months, the U.S. is working on strengthening herself. Now you see, they go to Equatorial Guinea. After they took them from Niger, they are going to Equatorial Guinea to go create base there. Africa. That's Let's continue. So you see the connection there, right? So they went and killed the Iranian two, how they call it, revolutionary general for no reason. These people did not do anything to Israel, but now the dumb-headed African Christian community are blaming Iran to say, oh, and then when they killed these two people, right, Iran came and retaliated. Iran came and retaliated and start bumping Israel too. So that's why you see Obama, and now Obama, Biden is telling Benjamin Netanyahu, don't fight them. We already win. What we wanted, we did it. We killed two of their most powerful men. So leave it, don't fight them. So when you hear Biden telling him, we are not going to support you to go to Iran, that's the reason. Because, so when you really look at it there, okay, when you really look at it, when you put the pieces together and think critically, it was them that sent Israel to go do it. And Israel did it, and they reacted, the Iran reacted, and then Joe Biden is not telling him, why should we go there? Our aim was to go kill these two men. Take the win. Let's take the win and move on. That's what we wanted. So at the end of the day, even though few of our people are going to die, but that's the sacrifices. That's what he's actually telling him. That is the sacrifices we have to go through because they will react. So leave them. We are not here, for them. Our aim is Africa. So whosoever that may want to work with them, we will go and weaken them. So even though they came to Israel and they bombed Israel, they killed few of your people, they killed few of our people, let it go. That's a sacrifice. Sacrifice have to be made. Folks, look, African leaders, if you guys don't put things together quick and unite and think accordingly, instead of them going down and you go up, they will go up and you will be going down. Now let's go to the video. The connection has been made, right? Let's go to the video. Now, you heard what she said. There's nothing in the Middle East but any attempt on American forces there. What are American forces doing there in the first place? American citizens are not there. But again, I don't want to talk about that. I will leave for the Middle East people. But what are African American military doing in Africa? What are European military? What are foreign military doing in Africa? Let's continue to the video.
Africa is not merely important, it is essential. African partnerships armed Iran while working to counter Iran's destabilizing activities. On the AFRICOM AOR, Africa is not merely important, it is essential.
Okay, now we have made a connection. Now you heard what she said. We are going to find how to destabilize Iran. And then in that she said, Africa is not only important, but Africa is essential. Oh my God. Yeah, now you see it. Africa. So do you think these people want for Africa to rise? We will be delusional to think that America served the interest of Africa for Africa to rise, or Europe served the interest of Africa for Africa to rise. You just see it. A nation in Africa that was going to work with, alongside with Iran. They want to kill the two people that was on the forefront to work with Africa. They killed them. Now you heard it here. We'll fight to destabilize Iran because Africa is not just important, but Africa is essential. That adjective that she used there. Africa is not just important. Africa is essential to the survival of Europe and America. We have not yet gotten it. These people sit down here every damn freaking day and say what they want to say and say, let me continue with this, man. Sometimes it help me that we will see this thing, our little can listen, they can learn.
African partnerships are tolerated, and we remain postured and prepared to use all means necessary to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran while working to counter Iran's destabilizing activities. On the AFRICOM AOR, Africa is not merely important, it is essential. African partnerships are critical for the Department of Defense to maintain its technological edge, accomplish its geopolitical and strategic objectives, and power our futures.
What? So you heard her clear. So nothing she said in her video about African life, about African interest, but what she said, Africa is not just important. Don't forget about, in fact, important is not a word to describe. That's what she tried to say. Important in its context is not a word to describe. But Africa is very essential for our technology, our geopolitical, our economy, our power into the future, into the world. It's not about Africa, folks. So some of you dumb and stupid Africans that will sit out there and want to defend Europe and America, that, oh, without America, we can't do nothing. Without Europe, we can't do nothing. Stupid and dumb. Because you're not searching for yourself. You're not reading for yourself. These people sit there and open a wild, ugly, stinking mouth and talk what they want to talk.
What was that? Did you just hear that? No. You got to hear that one again.
Africa is not merely important, it is essential. African partnerships are critical for the Department of Defense to maintain its technological edge, accomplish its geopolitical and strategic objectives, and power our future.
Did you just hear that? Partnership with Africa is not just important, it is essential. It is essential for the Department of Defense to have a technological advantage and maintain an edge over everyone. It is also essential to power our future. Did you just hear that part? The person talking is not just a low-ranking person. This is the Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs for the United States. She's a big whiz. She is telling, right, the Armed Service Committee the important role that Africa plays to the United States and why Africa is essential to the future of this country. Can you believe that? She can't be talking about the same Africa. No, she cannot be talking about the same Africa. You mean the same Africa that this country, England, Europe, have all sent out propaganda and talk about it is the poorest continent? You mean it's the same Africa that have all put out propaganda, information out there that all of Africans are leaving the continent because the continent is dying and they're coming to the West and Europe? You mean it's the same Africa that they said that it's all the diseases of the world, HIV came from, Black Plague, all the deadly diseases that the world has suffered came from this horrible continent? Is this the same Africa? This is the same Africa she's saying that is essential to the United States and to the survival and to help power this country? No. No. It can't be that same Africa. No. Yeah, it is. It's the same Africa. Right? As a matter of fact, she is not the only one that said it. You remember years ago, French President Jacques Chirac said also that Africa, without Africa, France would have slid into a third world country. You remember he said that? He also then said that we bled Africa for 4.5 centuries. We looted their raw materials. Then we told lies that Africans are good for nothing. In the name of religion, we destroyed their cultures. And then after being made rich at their expense, we now steal their brains through miseducation. misdirection, and misinformation, as well as propaganda to prevent them from enacting African rebellion against us. That was something that former French president said. See, it's an understanding in both Europe and the West. There has to be a coordinated attack against Africa, which is something that they've always done over the years. You heard the former French president say this, and now you're hearing a US diplomat say the same thing. Yeah, it's the same Africa. You see, the propaganda against Africa started years ago. It started years ago because white people knew that once upon a time, Africa and that continent was the dynasty. See, long ago, during the Egyptian dynasty, and also during Kemet, and many other kingdoms in Africa, Africa was a source of life for everything. Africa was where everybody went to learn trade, to go study. Timbuktu University. Egypt was where the Greek philosophers, Aristotle, Socrates, and many of them went to learn. Back when Africa was a mighty dynasty, all the regions in Africa were thriving. People came to Africa. So this knowledge about Africa and Africa being a land endowed with resources has been something that Europeans have always known about, because once upon a time, they went to Africa for food. They went to Africa to learn. Africa and their countries had the strongest army. They ruled vast majority of the earth long time ago. But they stayed in their region. Africa was a dynasty, was a place that everybody wanted to go to. But when Africa fell, because again, with every time, there's a time and season for everything, right? What goes up must come down, right? Everyone is affected by the law of diminishing return. Everyone is affected by your time and season. Africa had its time, and its time has come and gone. And so when the Europeans sensed that it was a time now, because Africa has now fallen, right? They knew and they seized that opportunity to begin dismantling all that was great about Africa. The first thing they did was distort the image and the size of Africa. See, most times when we look at the map today of Africa, the map that we have today of Africa depicts Africa as almost equal size with all the other continents, when actually Africa is the largest continent of all the other continents. The map that most of us are known to was actually recreated back in 1500.
Because of Donald Trump, millions of women lost the fundamental freedom to control the
by a gentleman known as Gerardus Mercator through the whole Mercator projection. He was a geographer. He was the one that redesigned the entire map that we have today. This was done in 1569. So he resized Africa, resized it so it looks like what you have today. So most people today believe that Africa isn't as large, is not one of the largest continents, when Africa is the largest continent. Africa, in terms of size, is 30.4 million square kilometers in terms of land mass. Africa is the largest continent. But they needed to distort that. They needed to begin the propaganda that this place that once ruled, that was once the giant on earth, that was once the center of education, once the center of civilization, once the center of economics, once the center of military might, once the center of rulership and lordship. This once a place cannot be remembered, and we need to change. And so you find the destruction of a lot of the libraries. See, when the Greeks, through Alexander, came and were conquering the whole place, they destroyed every Egyptian archive. They destroyed all the libraries in Egypt. They stole a lot of the scrolls and rewrote history to have their own imprint on it. That's usually what happens. So a lot of the stuff that most people believe about Africa today are distorted truth and version of Africa. But the propaganda doesn't stop there. It has continued in our modern times. Today, most people believe that Africa is a center of all the diseases. Most people believe that HIV came from Africa. If you ask an average person, they'll tell you this, that HIV came from Africa. HIV was a construct of the West. But they'll tell you that it came from Africa. It came from the monkeys in Africa. I can guarantee you that not long from now, you're going to hear that COVID-19 also came from Africa. I guarantee you, wait just 5-10 years from now, when everybody knows that it came from Wuhan, China. I guarantee you, right? Just give it 5-10 years from now, you're going to hear propaganda that COVID-19 came from Africa. We certainly have heard over the years that the Black Plague, smallpox, chickenpox, all of this stuff came from Africa. We've heard this stuff. It's a well-designed propaganda to paint that continent less than. Because if they can kill the value of the continent, it makes it easy for the robbery. If they can kill the value of the continent and help and also kill the belief or deceive the citizens of Africa, Africa's sons and daughters, they're going to leave their countries. They're going to leave their continent because we told them that this place is not good. So that's another propaganda. The other propaganda also is that Africa is so malnourished and lacks food, is the poorest continent. And so they need help. So once in a while, or occasionally, you'll find people donate to Africa. You'll find them donate to the sons, to the children, because all the image that is ever allowed to be shown about.
All right, folks, we can't play the whole video, but you get the point. Because of time, we can't play the whole thing. And now let me make this before we can transition. We running out of time, so I gotta double up, right? Now, for those of the other people who were saying, but you know what, but I didn't do that. That was my forefather. That was way back. You did it. I didn't do it. I wasn't there. Blah 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 blah. But in this current time, look at the kind of mindset that they have against Africa and African people. In this current time, look at the kind of mindset that they have against Africa and African people. Now, you did not enslave Africans, we know that. You did not colonize Africans, we know that. You did not divide. The division of Africa gave Ebolas, we know that. But you are the one living the legacy of slavery. You are the one living the legacy of raping African women. You are the one living the legacy of burning African, lynching African, hanging African. You are the one living that legacy. And you are carrying on that legacy to make sure Africa and her children should not rise. Because during the time of colonization in Berlin, in Berlin 1884, they said in that meeting, and if you go to Berlin, Germany right now, it is there. It is there. In a cabinet, if you open that damn freaking box, you will see it in there. That Africa and her children will never rise. And now, you are making sure to live that legacy to make sure Africa and her children will never rise. And then you come out here to sit and say, I didn't do it. How will you blame me for things I didn't do? My forefather do it. Let me just move on. You know, there's a global war. It's a global village. We need to move on and start pointing fingers and start going back to history. No, we are not moving on because you are living the legacy and making sure that Africa and her children will not rise. And that's how we will make sure you will not rise. You will fail. And that's how we will make sure you will not succeed. You will go down. Now, We have seen Ukraine, right? I mean, not Ukraine, Iran, right? Because Africans are not turning to Iran, right? Now, let's see what they're trying to do to Russia. Everything is about Africa. Look, folks, you know what? It's going to come a time, let me say this. If the subscription of this channel don't go up, we don't want you to come and just watch the channel and you don't subscribe to it. Don't be afraid. We don't want you to just come, show your face, watch it, and you can subscribe. Because you will not get this kind of education on most places. We sit here for 2-3 hours to educate you, to bring things, not opinion, but facts. Let's go to, let's see here. So we finish with Iran, right? So now in their mind, they have weakened Iran. So let's see what they're trying to do to Russia. Everything is about Africa, folks. Let's see here. Let's see here. Now, let's see here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let's see something here. NATO, EU chief, welcome. U.S. has approval of Ukraine aid. So, again, African leaders, you see, we are not going to take side and easy with you guys, especially the dumb ECWA and the dumb EAU. We are not going to take side with you people because you all are sellout. ECWA is a sellout. AU is a sellout. In this time period, these European nations, look at NATO, look at EU, and then look at the US. They know their family. They know that they are family. They know that their survival is now, if they can't fight, they are going down. But Africa, a continent, we don't know that our survival lies with us. We have ECWA that cannot handle African issue. We have AU that cannot handle African issue. How sad it is. But let's see something here. What's going on against Russia just because of Africa? All right? Just because of Africa. So in their mind, they don't go Iran. Right? But let's see what they're planning to do with Russia. Again, let me make this clear. We are not speaking in favor of Russia. We are not speaking in favor of Iran. And we speak for no one but Africa and African interests. So if we are bringing things out here to discuss, we are not even speaking in favor of US in the first place as well. And we are not speaking in favor of Russia. We are not speaking in favor of China. We are not speaking in favor of no one but Africa and Africans' interests. But we will speak the obvious of what is going on. So if we are speaking the obvious of what is going on and your intent, that doesn't mean we are speaking for Russia. No. So let's continue here. That has been said. Now, NATO and EU chief praise the U.S. House of Representatives for passing a much awaited $61 billion aid package to support Ukraine effort. In the ongoing war, they urge the Senate to promptly approve the bill as well. They urge the Senate to promptly approve the bill as well. $61 billion. African leaders. Now, I'm not saying because the United States is about to give $61 billion to Ukraine, then I'm angry that they are not giving us $61 billion to Africa. I don't care, and I care less. That is not my point. My point here is Africa. America will come to you and say they love Africa. They want to fight the terrorists. So let's just take it for this. For instance, okay, let's just put it this way. In this case, Russia is the terrorist. Okay? In this case, Russia is the terrorist. Why is Africa not going to Russia? Why the United States, why Canada, why Europe, Germany, Britain, why are they not sending military to Africa, to Ukraine to go fight? Why? And I will tell you why. Why? In fact, they will tell you in this article. But the issue here is, I'm asking now, why is the U.S. not sending military to Ukraine to go fight? Why is the U.S. not sending our citizens to go fight? Why the German? Why Canada? But in Africa, you have the Canadian bases. In Africa, Canada have base there. Europe, Great Britain have base there. Germany have base there. United States have base there. India, base there. Eh? I mean, even Sweden, they all have base in Africa. But my point here is, why can't they keep their bases in Europe, in America, just how they are keeping their bases in Europe and America and sending the support for the Ukrainians to fight the terrorists? Why can't they do the same thing to Africa? Give ammunition to the African soldiers so that the African soldiers can fight the terrorists. Just how you are giving billions of dollars and weapons to Ukraine to fight the terrorists. Why can't you do the same thing? Why do you have to have base? And now you having a base in Africa, you are not even fighting the terrorists, but rather you are the one funding the terrorists. $61 billion that they urge the U.S. to pass to send us $61 billion. Why in black community here? Now, some of you black, go and join the army and go and die. You die not because of your people, but you die as a slave. Your black community schools are underfunded, in poverty. Hospital underfunded, no medication, nothing there, no good health care. But if you leave the black community and go to the upper area, their hospitals are well funded, educational systems are well funded. Even the meal, the school meal they eat is different from the school meal the black people eat in their schools. So black people are asking for funding. Do you imagine? Do you know how many times you have protested? You have asked Congress for funds. Do you know how many times you have protested for reparation? They cannot give you it. What did you see here? And get this clear. You have most of those black lawmakers also part of this deal, this $61 billion. They also signed it. They are also there to approve it. But when you are fighting for reparation, you will not see those black lawyers, those black representatives and senators to fight alongside with you to push that reparation bill. They will not do it. But let's continue here. Now, NATO and EU chief on Saturday held the U.S. House of Representatives approval of a long-awaited $61 billion after already they have spent over $31 billion, over $30 billion, right? They are about to sign another $61 billion war effort. Okay, $61 billion aid package of Ukraine war effort, and urge the Senate to quickly pass or clear the bill. According to them, I welcome the passing of this bill in the House of Representatives. It demonstrates the continued bipartisan of, for Ukraine. But when black people are asking for reparation, there is no bipartisan. When black people are asking for things that they need to better their life, there's no bipartisan. But let's continue here. This significant boost in aid will supplement the tens of billions of aid being provided to Ukraine by European allies. NATO in Chief Jens Stoltenberg said in a statement, I encourage the Senate to act quickly to send this bill to President Joe Biden, he added. The Western Military Alliance chief pointed to an agreement on Friday by NATO defense minister to provide further military support to Ukraine, including for air defense. Since when have the U.S. talked about this? Like I said, not that because I know their money is always something that will choke you. But the reality here is, they always talk about helping Africans, fighting jihadi, fighting terrorists. But what we all know, it is recorded, they funded the Arab Spring jihadi to take down Gaddafi. When we all know, they have been training people in Africa to take down African leaders. You see, let me make this clear, folks. You know, Western media will tell you the terrorists are the people with the beard. Right here, right? They will tell you terrorists are people with the beard. So they make you to believe that. You see what they do? They make you to believe that people who have long beard, like Arab, they are the terrorists. But let me tell you, the most dangerous terrorists are the people with no beard, no head, is cut, is clean. The most dangerous terrorists are the people in Kosu with tie. They are the most dangerous terrorists. The World Bank is a terrorist. The IMF, they are terrorists because they are the people who run these organizations, these businesses. The people you say, investor concession agreement, they are the people that control the World Bank. So they are the people supporting the terrorist activity, the proxy war in your country to make sure you should not focus on development, but focus on how to survive for the next day as they continue to loot your resources. They created chaos and capitalize on the chaos and loot you. Since when? Let's continue here. The Western Military Alliance chief pointed to an agreement on Friday by NATO defense minister to provide further military support to Ukraine, including air defense. Since when have America gave air defense to Africa for Africans to go fight? Since when have they given ammunition to Africa for Africans to go fight? But rather, the terrorists are the people they gave the arm to. The terrorists and the jihadi are the people that have the most sophisticated weapon in the country, in Africa. And then we see another slave like Nana Akufo-Addo coming saying that we are slave master, telling them to go take down an African revolutionary leader. If Nana Akufo was in the death of Kwame Nkrumah, Nana Akufo-Addo was going to be used to kill Kwame Nkrumah. If Nana Akufo-Addo were in the days of Patrice Lumumba, he could have been the one to kill Patrice Lumumba or Thomas Sankara or Amilcar Cabral. Nana Akufo-Addo was a replication of the man the African had killed, Thomas Sankara. I just finished forgetting his name. It just slipped from my mouth. But again, do you see how these Westerners are coming together? Do you see how they have having meeting? They are coming. This is the entire NATO, the entire EU came to meet Joe Biden or the American Congress, and they all agree because it is in their favor. So you heard what they said in the video that we watch. So these people are working together. They are working holistically. It's all about Africa. And we are selling here. If they can defeat Russia, they defeat Africa. If they can defeat Russia, they defeat Africa. That's the fight going on right now. These people are fighting Africa, but you sit down there and you don't even get it. If they can defeat Russia, they defeat Africa. So in their mind, they already defeated Iran by killing the two revolutionary leaders. Either two of the most powerful people in the nation, they killed them. And that's why Joe Biden told Benjamin, why are you worrying? Let's take the victory. Even though a couple of your people died, but that's the sacrifice. People are going to sacrifice, people are going to die. Let's take the victory and move on. So they are fighting Africa, but you don't even get it. And you are there praying for them 24/7. You are fasting for them. Fasting and praying against your own sources. So the defeat of Russia is the defeat of Africa. Right now, they may not be fighting Africa as you think, but they are fighting Africa. Because if anything that is to empower Africa, if anything that is to work with Africa, they will come against that thing and destroy that thing and kill that thing, then they are fighting Africa. But like I said, let's go here. We'll see what we mean here. We don't come and speak our opinion because the evidence are there. So the day they come, we'll bring the evidence out. The United States has been the chief military backer of Ukraine, but Congress has not approved large-scale funding for its ally for nearly a year and a half. EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen and Charlie Michael also welcomed the United States House approval. Ukraine deserves, this is what I said, right? Now, I want to clarify something here that is said in here. Now, and I'll also be asking you, this is what I said. Ukraine deserves all the support it can against Russia. Ukraine deserves all the support it can against Russia. But yesterday, Libya, Gaddafi did not deserve all the support because Gaddafi wanted Africa to be self-reliant and dependent on herself. They did not want that. They couldn't support that. So today in DRC Congo, the Congolese do not deserve all the support, but they deserve all the proxy war. The Congolese do not deserve all the support, but they deserve suffering and looting and captivity. Today in Togo, the United States is studying on the Togolese do not deserve any support, but they deserve a dictator that the United States supports. The Togolese deserve to die in poverty. They do not deserve to rise from poverty. They do not deserve the American support, but rather the support of a dictator. Ukraine deserves all the support it can to get against Russia. Now, we are asking the U.S. Senate to vote as quickly as possible as life are at stake, in Ukraine. But in Africa, that they say Africa is essential to their survival, but lives are being taken every day in Africa, but those lives are not at stake. Those lives are not important. Transatlantic allies are united in support for freedom. Transatlantic allies are united in support of freedom. Now, what is freedom? What is freedom? Because yesterday, when the African in Niger took upon their own and said we need freedom, America said that was not freedom. Yesterday, when the people in Niger say we need democracy, we do not need this man to be in power. He should leave. America said that was not freedom. So who get to define freedom for Africans? If they can say the Ukrainians need freedom and they are fighting to do everything, why yesterday when the people in Niger said we do not want Bazoo, we want our freedom, we want our democracy, but America were against it and they said Badou should be reinstilled? What a hypocrite US is. What a hypocrite Europe is. These people, they are bully. Look, the biggest bully in the world is the US and Europe. These colonizers, these imperialists, these racist states, these capitalists, they are liars. You don't trust them. What is freedom? Transatlantic allies are united in support of freedom and democracy. So yesterday when Nigeria was asking for democracy, did you agree? So what is democracy to you? Oh, democracy to the United States is the people of that country right are being infringed. Is the people of that country, their leader continue to suppress and oppress them in favor of America. Democracy in that country, the American foreign policy should be supported and protected by that country. That is democracy. Oh. Democracy to the United States, the people of that country resources should be looted and brought to America and Europe. That is democracy. Oh. Democracy in that country, the constitutional right of that land should not protect the people, but it should protect American interests. Oh. So I will take this out here, right? Take this out and we read the last article. So we got a last article we're going to read. But so you see the hypocrisy going on here. So you see what is going on against Africa here. You think the war in between Ukraine and Russia is about Russia? It's not about Russia, folks. We said this over time and time with our numbers here. They said before, and we talk about this in this video, Ukraine is fighting for the interest of Europe. How can Ukraine be fighting for the interest of Europe? These people speak in code. We've been saying it over and over. These people, when they speak in code. When they speak in code. You can understand, you will only understand if you are the person who is actually on their back and doing research and listening, and know who they are. That's how you understand. But if you don't know who these people are, when they speak in code, you will never get it. In fact, when they speak in code, if you don't understand who they are, you will intend to go against yourself, and you think they are saying the right thing. And then, channel like this that is educating you, in fact, you will be reporting our channel. You will report our channel for our channel to be blocked because you don't understand that these people speak in code. It is because of Russia. It's because of Africa. You heard it in the video when she said Africa is not just important. So it is today they know the importance of Africa, a continent they call shithole. But I don't blame them. I blame the African leaders. And nation, a continent job which got insignificant. I don't blame them. I blame the African leaders. A continent they call poverty stinking African continent. I don't blame them. is the continent they are talking about. Africa is not just important, but Africa is essential for the survival of Europe and America. That they will do anything necessary to preserve their technological power, their economic power, their political power. So the political power of Europe depends on Africa. The political power of America depends on Africa. The technological power of America and Europe depend on Africa. The economic stability of Europe and America depend on Africa. In order for the empire to survive, depend on Africa. Africa, don't you know this? I don't know. Our leaders, don't you know this? Should we come here again and tell you when these people are saying it? Should we come here again and tell you when they themselves are saying it? Let's see something I want to show you here, and then we'll close for the day. Let's see something here. It's something I want to read here. Let me see here. Hopefully, let me see here. Okay. We'll read it. So I want to show you something here. So just to show you what I'm reading here, it's not some, like I said, we do the research, okay? This is what we do. All right. So statement by Dr. Celeste, I don't know her name, but Celeste, the lady that just spoke, all right? Statement by Dr. Celeste Wadler, Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs, Office of the Honor Secretary of Defense for Policy, Office of the Secretary of Defense, before the 118 Congress Committee on Armed Services, U.S. House of Representatives, April 10, 2024. It looks like we're on top of things, right? All right. So let me show you something I want to read here, okay? Let me show you something I want to read here. Okay. So it said closing. So, in fact, this article is where she made her statement as well. So, yeah. So let's see here. It said closing. To include, so when you read this article here, right, it's talking about China, it's talking about Iran, it's talking about Russia, all their plan, all the evil plot against Africa. All right. So let's see something here. In closing, it says, to conclude, that's what she said. To conclude, I want to emphasize how important Congress is to achieving our strategic objective in Europe and to hindering those of our competitor and adversary. Now, who are the competitor, or how they call it, who are competing with them? So, by the way, in order to refer to someone as a competitor, someone who compete against you, right? You have to be fighting over something. So, who are they fighting and what are they fighting over? Folks, we'll do research and put the analysis together and come here. So we don't want you to just come in and just get the knowledge. Subscribe to it and share it as well, because we are in this together. We are not going to take our time here and do these things and come up here and then you just come and sit there and watch and you don't subscribe. Don't be a lukewarm. Don't be a lukewarm. If you want to be warm, be warm. You want to be cold, but don't be lukewarm. But let's read here. To conclude, I want to emphasize on how important Congress is to achieving our strategic objective in Europe and to hindering those of our competitor and those of our competitor and adversary. So, who are their competitor? Who are their adversary? And what are they fighting over before they having competitor? They are fighting over Africa, number one. Number two, who are their competitor? Who are they fighting? Russia, China. Okay? And then in the process, whosoever Africa may run to for partnership, like Iran, like just happened, they go after you. So those are their competitor in this current time as for now. But let's continue here what it said. You are reliable. She's talking to them. I mean to those that were in our Congress, in our meeting. Okay? But you see, we African, stupid and dumb African leader, you will never hear the African leader sitting on the African continent to discuss our African interests. You will never see ECOWAS calling the West African nation to sit down to dialogue about the interest and the empowerment of Africans. When they will come to Europe to serve their African brothers and sisters. You will never see AU doing these things. When they will come to Europe to have African meeting, not on the African continent, but they will come to Washington, D.C. Or they will go to the Queen Palace to have African meeting. Where you will not see African journalists, you will not see African writers, but you will see American and European writers who will be at our meeting. You will not see African journalists, but you will see European and American journalists who will write our script. But I wonder whether there was African journalists or African channel in this meeting when they were having a meeting. I wonder. But let's continue here. Your reliable, stable, and consistent support and funding have been and will continue to be critical to ensuring deterrence and defense. You see, Africa, we have all these resources. You will never see African leaders coming together to talk about your reliable, your stable, and your consistent support. You will now see African leaders talking about, look, let us stop running to the West. We have the resources. Look, it's sad, man, to keep talking this thing over and over here. Just one nation in Africa can take care of the entire Africa. Just DRC Congo. Even Liberia can take care of the entire Africa. One nation in Africa can take care of the entire Africa. We have the resources. Aren't we able to put money together? The meeting these people are having here was to come together to generate money. They did not go to Africa to ask them for money. They did not go to China to ask them to donate. But you damn stupid African leader will run to Europe and America and be backing them. I don't blame them when they say African, you are backers. Because our leader coming back. You never see them saying that together to collaborate to talk about African and African interests. But when we come to Europe and America, they colonize you. The men that colonize you, the men that lynch you, the men that enslave you, the men that kill all your African revolutionary leaders for you to not get independent, you still coming to them to make decisions for you. You still coming to these rapists because they rape Africans. And then they call them prostitute. You rape someone, you take advantage of them, then you call the person prostitute. And you still come to them to ask them for human rights, to define human rights for you. The biggest violators of human rights in the world, Europe and America. They support the violation of human rights. They give ammunition to violate human rights. They are the biggest spenders to violate human rights. Let's continue here. There is something they say here, and I want to close with it. Your reliable, stable, and constant support and funding have been and will continue to be critical to ensuring deterrence and defense. It is my strong belief that helping our allies and partners develop their defense. Oh, so why America did not help Africans to develop their defense, but rather they carry their stupid militant on the African continent to support terrorists? Why are they not going to Ukraine to go fight? Why are they not going there to go open bases there? Say they really love them. African leaders, that caution is for you people. You people that allow bases in Africa is for you. But there is one thing they say. I'm coming to it. I'm coming to it. Let's continue here. It is my strong belief that helping our allies and partners to develop their defense capability. Listen to this. To develop their defense capability is far less costly than the American life that could be lost. Should we have to respond to aggression on our own? Now, you see, if African leaders, now you're listening, because these people come and lie to you that they are coming to fight for Africa. They are coming to preserve African life. They are coming to fight for African life. These people are saying they do not want for American life, American soldier to die, because they know they will die in Russia or in Ukraine when they go there. But they are saying American lives are so important. They are saying it's better we send supply of military capability and money whatsoever we can send. It will be less costly than sending our people to die, because it will be costly sending our people there to die. So are you telling me these people love Africans so much that they send Americans in Africa? So do you think now, let's put it this way, do you think these American bases, these foreign bases in Africa are there to die for African life? Oh man, look, it's clear in here. Do you think these American bases in Africa to fight terrorists, to fight jihadi, do you think they are oh God. Oh man. So do you think African life are more value than American life for them to go die on battlefront? Fighting for who? The slave? Fighting for who? Africans? Because in their mind, you are slave. Why would they want to come and die for you? They are saying they will not send people in Ukraine. Now, I know white people in Ukraine, right? But they are saying they will not send people there. Because guess what? It's not about Ukraine. It's not about Ukraine. The war going on is not about Ukraine. It's about Africa. Defeat Russia. It's not about Ukraine. So you get the point here. So American now in Africa fighting, in quote, fighting jihadi, are African life better than them? Because in quote, the Americans are there to have fight jihadi, to have fight terrorists. You think they are waiting for American life to go be wasted for Africans? That is to tell you these bases in Africa are useless. They're not supposed to be there. But see what it said here. It is my strong belief, and it is my strong belief that helping our allies with ammunition to develop their defense capability, it is far less costly than the American life that will be wasted. Than the American life that will be wasted, that will be lost. should we have to respond to aggression on our own? So you hear that, what it said? So you'll be dumb and stupid when America come and tell you our African on the African continent how we have bases that to fight jihadi and terrorists. That is to tell you they are the ones supporting the terrorists. That is to tell you they are the ones giving the ammunition to the terrorists. In fact, you make it easier for them to have base there to communicate with the terrorists, to give them ammunition, because if they don't have base there, they are not going to fly over a nation with their drone, with their plane. But the fact that you gave them base there, you are giving them the right to fly their plane. You will not question them to fly their plane over airspace to go get ammunition to the terrorists. While the terrorists always get sophisticated weapons than the country national army. So you think they're coming to die for you? They're not coming to die for you. Now, this is today's presentation. I know we've been here saying 1 o'clock. It's already 4 o'clock. Yeah, the topic always hard, eh? Trust me. The ancestral spirit always speak to me. They always give me the energy. And I know they give you the energy to be here. You know, it is number one. We are in it together. So that is today's presentation. Thank you all for being on. The fight is on. Just know what is going on around the world is about Africa. We are not making a story. We bring it and you see it and they say it and we read it. So it's about Africa. They are not going to go down so easily. All right? They are not going. They already said it. They may not have said we are not going down so easily, but the truth here is they sell it. Africa is very essential. Because the lady said, don't even talk about importance. Take away importance. Don't talk about importance. That's not the word to use. The precise word to use is essential. Africa is essential to the survival of the US, of Europe. It's essential for the economy, for the technology, for our empire to strive in the future. It is essential. You heard that? So, when we Africans don't know the importance of the African continent, lack of knowledge, my people perish. How can people who don't have it know the importance that we can only survive because of Africa? But we that have it, we don't even know that our survival depends on what we have. And we continue to be misled by the same people who say or who says their survival depends on Africa. So, folks, and to our African leader, what our survival depends on. If Europe and America, the colonizer, the enslaver, okay, if they are the capitalists, the oppressor, if their survival depends on Africa, what is the survival of Africa depend on? Because if they are telling us their survival depends on Africa, that means our survival does not depend on them. That means they are parasites. They are the parasites and they feed on us. So if they are the parasite feeding on us without us, they can't survive, then that means our survivability, it don't depend on them. It do not depend on them. It do not depend on them and will never depend on them. They have already made it clear. So the question again is, what do we have to survive as a race, as a continent, as a people?